All right, let's dive into something pretty interesting that happened at the SAG Awards this year.
Yeah.
Timothée Chalamet won Best Actor for playing Bob Dylan.
Yeah, for a complete unknown.
That's right, a complete unknown.
Kind of a surprise, right?
I mean, he beat out some big names.
Some giants, yeah.
And in his acceptance speech, he talked about wanting to be one of the greats, like he mentioned Daniel Day-Lewis and Marlon Brando.
Greats.
But then, and this is what I thought was really interesting,
Yeah.
he brought up Michael Jordan and Michael Phelps.
Wow, okay.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it's definitely not your typical acceptance speech.
No.
It's not just, thank you, I'm so honored. He's laying out some serious ambition.
Yeah, it seems like he's aiming for a different level of achievement.
Right, not just winning awards, but like becoming a legend.
And he's comparing himself to athletes who are known for their drive and dedication.
It's like he's saying, I want that same level of intensity in my acting career.
And this was the SAG Awards, meaning the people voting for him are other actors.
Right, his peers, people who really understand the craft.
So this win has to mean a lot to him.
Oh, absolutely. It's like getting the seal of approval from the masters of your field.
So we've got the unexpected win, this bold statement about greatness, and a performance that clearly impressed other actors.
Definitely.
What do you think makes this particular SAG win so significant for Chalamet, especially when you consider his career so far?
Well, think about it. I mean, he was nominated for an Oscar when he was only 22 for Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah.
And since then, he's been in some really interesting films, working with some amazing directors. But the SAG win, now that he's 29, it feels like a real turning point. He's not just a promising young actor anymore.
Right, he's arrived.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's saying, this is who I am, and this is where I'm going.
It's almost like he's drawing a line in the sand.
I think that's a great way to put it.
And this whole thing, this ambition, it's not something you see a lot in Hollywood.
Not so openly, no. People usually try to be a bit more, humble.
Yeah, it's like, I'm just so grateful to be here.
Right. But Chalamet's like, I'm going for greatness. And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting.
Yeah, especially since by comparing himself to athletes who are known for pushing the limits,
Yeah.
he's kind of implying that he wants to break records in acting too.
Interesting.
But what would breaking records even look like in acting? I mean, how do you measure greatness in that world?
That's a really good question.
Is it the awards you win? Or the critical acclaim? Or how long your career lasts?
Or maybe it's something more about the impact you have on audiences.
Or the legacy you leave behind?
Yeah, it's hard to define.
And this whole idea of humility versus ambition in Hollywood? Do you think it's possible to be both ambitious and humble?
That's a tough one.
Or does striving for greatness always involve a certain amount of ego?
I mean, he's going to say humility is important, especially in an industry where there are a lot of big egos.
Right.
But there's also something admirable about someone who's not afraid to say, I want to be the best.
Yeah, I get that.
Especially if it comes from a genuine place, not just ego.
And think about the athletes Chalamet mentioned. Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps.
Right.
They were incredibly dedicated, always pushing themselves.
Absolutely.
And that seems to be what Chalamet's talking about.
That drive, that constant work to be better.
And he's not just comparing himself to actors, he's looking at a totally different field.
Yeah, where excellence is measured in a very clear way.
Like breaking records, being faster or stronger.
It's like he wants to bring that same level of intensity to acting.
So is this just useful ambition? Or are we seeing the beginning of a truly great acting career?
Well, only time will tell, I guess.
But he's definitely not afraid to aim high.
That's for sure.
And I think that ambition, that willingness to be so open about it,
Yeah.
that might be the most interesting thing about this whole SAG win.
It's definitely a challenge to how things are usually done in Hollywood.
It's like he's starting a new conversation about what it means to be a great actor today.
Absolutely, and it'll be fascinating to see how it all plays out as his career continues.
It's kind of interesting that he chose to play Bob Dylan at this point in his career.
Yeah.
Like right when he's making this big statement about his ambition.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Dylan's an icon, right? Known for constantly evolving, pushing boundaries.
Definitely not someone who just plays it safe.
And A Complete Unknown doesn't focus on the typical Dylan story.
No, not the greatest hits.
It's about a very specific period of time when he was really experimenting and kind of alienating some of his fans.
Yeah, pushing those boundaries.
It's like an artist wrestling with their own legacy, trying to find their voice.
And how does Chalamet, someone known for his youthful energy, embody someone like Dylan?
Well, from what I've seen, it's not an impersonation.
No.
He's not trying to sound exactly like Dylan.
Right.
It's more about capturing that creative spirit.
That energy, the vulnerability.
And that's where the connection to those athletes comes in again.
Yeah, like Michael Jordan or Serena Williams.
They all had that mental toughness, that drive to push beyond limits.
And I think that's what Chalamet is trying to show in his performance. And I read that he really went all out for this role, learned to play guitar and harmonica.
Yeah, he even studied with some of Dylan's former bandmates.
Really immersed himself in that world.
It's like he was trying to understand Dylan on a deeper level, not just play a character.
And that, to me, is the difference between a good actor and a great one.
Going beyond just saying the lines.
Bringing the character to life in a way that feels real.
And it seems to be working. The reviews have been incredible.
But I wonder about the film's impact beyond just critics.
Yeah.
Will it actually start a new conversation about Dylan?
Or maybe even about ambition itself.
Like, is it okay to be so open about wanting to be great?
It's an interesting question, right?
Because it could come across as arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
But in Chalamet's case, it seems like it's coming from a genuine part.
I think that's what makes it different.
It's not just about ego, it's about a desire to create something truly great.
And to push himself as an artist.
And that's something I think we can all relate to.
Yeah, that desire to be the best version of ourselves.
So, to our listeners, as you watch Chalamet's career, think about this. Is his ambition inspiring or maybe a little intimidating?
And how does his journey reflect our own dreams and anxieties about achieving greatness? Because in the end, the pursuit of greatness is a very personal thing.
Absolutely.
It's a journey that challenges us to face our own limitations and our potential.
It's pretty interesting that he specifically mentioned Daniel Day-Lewis and Marlon Brando.
Yeah, those are some big names.
Like they're considered the gold standard of acting.
Definitely. I think it says a lot about what he's aiming for.
Not just success, but a certain kind of legacy.
Right. Both Day-Lewis and Brando were known for their total commitment to their craft.
Like they were willing to completely disappear into their roles.
They weren't afraid to take risks, even if it meant turning down mainstream stuff.
Putting artistic integrity first.
And I think that's what Chalamet is drawn to.
It's not about fame or fortune.
It's about creating work that really matters.
And leaving a lasting impact.
Yeah, pushing the boundaries of acting.
Like those athletes we talked about.
Breaking records in their own way.
Setting new standards.
And maybe that's what Chalamet sees as the ultimate measure of greatness.
Not just being good.
But being innovative, expanding what's possible.
But it's a pretty high bar to set, right?
Yeah, it's a risky move.
Those are some huge shoes to fill.
But I think the point is not necessarily to be better than them.
More about using their example as inspiration.
To push yourself further.
And maybe he'll end up creating something completely new.
A legacy that's all his own.
Building on what they did, but taking it in a new direction.
That's what makes this moment so exciting.
He's achieved so much already.
But he's still hungry for more.
Still searching.
It's inspiring.
So to our listeners, as you think about Chalamet and his ambition,
yeah,
what do you think it means to be truly great?
Is it about awards and recognition?
Or something deeper?
That drive to be excellent no matter what.
And can you be ambitious without being egotistical?
That's a tough balance.
These are all questions worth thinking about.
As we all try to find our own paths to success.
Because in the end, greatness isn't a destination.
It's a journey.
And it's a journey that's best traveled with passion and purpose.
And maybe a little bit of self-awareness too.